company.
Whoa, they're spicy today. Hey, can we stop for some burgers? I'm getting hungry. We can still hold a rally today, right?
I didn't sign up for this.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. The most important 3 to 4 seconds in all of Western civilization happened live on our TV screens and streaming devices last summer when we watched President Trump miss an on-air execution by millimeters in what is the most widely viewed miracle in human history. President Trump survives and goes on to win in a landslide. Of course, this moment iconically etched into the minds of all Americans for all time. And as uplifting as the story is, fight, 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 we still have a lot of questions about this. And we've never gotten the answers. And it seems like President Trump hasn't gotten the answers either. It's very weird. Why haven't the intel agencies and federal government released everything that they have on the Trump assassin? He's dead. So it's not like you're protecting anyone. It's not like there's a trial that's ongoing. And we're having to learn now from FOIA requests from outside media organizations, in fact, that the Trump shooter, a man named Matthew Thomas Crooks, the assassin, who was dead on a rooftop just a few seconds after shooting 8 shots from an AR-15, killing a member of the Trump movement, piercing the head of Donald Trump and wounding 2 others at the rally, that he had a much bigger violent attack planned. Trump shooter Thomas Crooks' emails reveal a student dreaming of a bright future and contemplating a violent attack. Just bury the lead here, CBS News dumbasses. Matthew Thomas Crooks had a lot on his mind in January 2024. The 20-year-old who 6 months later would open fire on President Trump at a Pennsylvania campaign rally, striking his ear and killing an audience member, was busy polishing up his applications to transfer from a community college to a 4-year engineering program. Crooks was gathering transcripts and asking friends to review his personal statement. He was also designing a bomb. It's just a little CBS. We're not going to lead with that or anything. He ordered more than 2 gallons of nitromethylene from an online specialty fuel retailer using an encrypted email account, documents obtained by CBS News show. 12 days later, Crooks' purchase hadn't shipped, and he wanted to know why. Hi, my name is Thomas. I placed an order on your website on January 19th. I've not received any updates on the shipping order out yet, and I was wondering if you still have it and when I can expect it to come. Crooks emailed the retailer, Hyperfuels. So just really quickly here, what is nitromethylene? Let's check here. Nitromethylene, hazardous substance fact sheet. It is a colorless, oily liquid with a mild, disagreeable odor. It is used as a propellant, fuel, additive, rocket fuel, and solvent, making dyes, textiles, pharmaceuticals, and explosives. Okay. This is, again, listed as a explosive fuel. And there's a long list of all of the things that could go wrong with this. It is a flammable liquid. Do not use dry chemical extinguishers on fire. Explosive, shock, friction, concussion, poisonous gases are produced. Containers may explode in fire. It is unstable, and shock, friction, or elevated temperatures can cause explosive decomposition, and especially when confined. It reacts violently with oxidizing agents. So this is, clearly something that you shouldn't mess around with. He was trying to order gallons of it, 2+ gallons of this. Jeez. So why would you want to do that? Crooks uses community college to inquire about the shipping, one of the few operational missteps that allowed a rare look into the dark side of the ambitious young student. 2 weeks after the nitromethylene email, Crook's focus returned to his academic future, planning a video he called Proofread My Pit Personal Essay with a Friend Prior to Class. So that's it. This was the email that he was using on a domain from his college. So that's why they were able to FOIA it, get it, because this was a public institution. It was at a community college. So what would you want to do with this amount of explosives? You clearly want to make a much larger bomb than he had. Now, something that's often overlooked, that Matthew Thomas Crooks had 3 pipe bombs, 3 bombs that were going, oh yeah, pipe bombs. I mean, it's just like the J6 pipe bomber. Interesting. Just like Ryan Ralph. Curious. You're starting to put the pieces together here. Matthew Thomas Crooks trained at a firing range that was regularly used by DHS agents. Matthew Thomas Crooks somehow knew exactly how to get to the rooftop, and the exact weak point that would have been a natural sniper's nest at that exact moment. The snipers that were supposed to be overlooking, doing overwatch on that roof, they just decided to pack up and leave. Who ordered that exactly? Who set this whole thing up? Is this why we haven't learned anything about it? And now we learn that he's trying to make a much bigger bomb, a bomb that perhaps he could have like put in the crowd. Who knows? Who knows? The bombs were supposedly going to be distractions that would take the focus away, and then he would get a cleaner shot on President Trump. That's what security experts have told us. It does raise the question, like, is anybody looking into this at all? Like, will we ever get the answers? President Trump has said from the Oval Office that no one has briefed him on this. And this is what really pisses me off about this whole Matthew Thomas Crooks thing, is the feds have his phone, the feds have his email, the feds have all of the information. They're Googling it, they're looking at it, and they're just refusing to show us anything. Why protect him? It says here that Crooks was a good student and everyone around him was shocked, but he was a Biden donor. In the emails, he also rages about President Trump. The one known mention of Trump comes in an essay praising nuclear energy and criticizing Trump for pulling us out of the Iran nuclear agreement during his first term. He mentioned Biden. He was also a Biden donor. He donated on Biden's election day to a nonprofit for libs, like a get out of the vote for libs thing. So we know nothing. There's footage of him on the phone talking with somebody using his phone. We know he's had encrypted devices, and the feds have given us nothing. Will we ever learn the truth? Ryan Ralph emailing military members in Ukraine asking for Ukrainian weapons to shoot down Trump's plane, trying to smuggle in Afghan fighters into the United States of America. This guy traveling back and forth from Ukraine, clearly an op, clearly somebody working with Intel or working for Intel. Ryan Ralph was clearly funded by our deep state. And this is why they're never going to let you see the truth about who planned this assassination of Donald Trump. This was the emergency plan. It seems like this was the plan A. This was very much plan D or C. Will we ever hear the truth? We need to keep asking questions about this. Why is it that we have to depend on CBS News and FOIA requests of his community college emails? Why hasn't the federal government on day one given us a briefing on this? It's the single most important seconds in American history. When given an opportunity to interview Kristi Noem, we asked about Ryan Ralph, we asked about Matthew Thomas Crooks, because the investigations are being done at the Secret Service. The failures were of the Secret Service. Kristi Noem's in charge of the Secret Service, right? Here's what Kristi Noem had to tell us. She signaled almost that there might have been more to a plot, like a second shooter, like co-conspirators, potentially, in the Trump assassination. I wasn't satisfied with these answers, but clearly this is just all she could tell us at the time. I really hope and pray. This is so unbelievably important. It was so paramount to all of our lives that they come out with this information and do it quickly. Do it before it becomes ancient history, like the JFK assassination, right? Yeah. Okay. Here's, at the very least, this is me throwing down and saying, well, I'm going to keep asking me versus Kristi Noem on these questions.
Your service has bad advertisements,
Yes,
right? Like the
right.
assassination attempt in Butler.
Yes.
And many people, especially in our audience, are frustrated at the lack of understanding of what the motivation was, who was Matthew Thomas Crooks talking to on the phone, what was happening behind the scenes. Some investigators are out saying he might not have acted alone. Again, what people want, I think, is just information because it seems so strange. This guy almost started a civil war, changed the course of human history with 8 shots on the president.
Well, we need to know the truth, and Americans deserve the truth. They really do. Yeah, and that is all information that the president will be fully briefed on and will know, and that the American public will know. What I will say also is that what we have seen continuously, and what I see as a fundamental flaw, is a breakdown in communication. And it's part of my job at DHS is to help streamline that. If you look at that situation in Butler, the communication between Secret Service, the local law enforcement, the state law enforcement, all the agencies that were there, it was a breakdown in how they communicate and how they do it in a situation like that. But we see the same thing happening in a crisis that could be in response to a natural disaster. How the federal responders communicate with the state responders, with the local emergency management operators. A lot of times when we see failures in FEMA, or in failures in other departments and agencies, it's because they weren't communicating. And for me, my job, what I believe needs to happen so many times is a pre-education and a structure for how we communicate and how we do things before they happen. Sean knows that part of that training that needs to happen is educating folks on how we're going to work with local law enforcement before that event ever comes, and spending time to create those communication structures. Because if you go back through the investigations that the House and the Senate have done into Butler, a lot of it was they weren't talking to each other, they weren't cooperating together, therefore their assets weren't fully utilized. And how did that happen? How did 8 shots get off? And is he acting alone? We still don't have the answers because we weren't talking to each other.
So you don't know if he was acting alone?
Well, it's not my purview to say to you today all of that, but I will say that it all is information that the American public will have at the appropriate time.
So there is an investigation going on.
Oh,
and we will learn a lot more.
And members of Congress are still working on that as well, too. So it's not just an investigation, with law enforcement entities in the country, but also Congress is still very much on top.
Ryan Ralph with the other assassin in Florida still did not a lot of information on this guy.
Nope.
Apparently he was recruiting for the Ukrainian military. He was flying all over the world. He was on the FBI's wanted list. He shouldn't have been able to even own a firearm. DHS apparently didn't investigate him when he came back into the country from Ukraine.
Right.
Any Ukrainian connection there? Any further information on Ryan Ralph?
There's still intelligence agencies here that are still doing investigations here. So my ability to speak to that right now today is not something that I can give you a lot of details on. But I will tell you that there are investigations ongoing, and knowing those ties are critically important. So how people come into this country, when they come on our radar, and what their nefarious activities were when they were back home is very important to predicting what they will do once they get here and what they will do, and if they have real threats, not just against the president, but threats to people who live here too. So these individuals that come in, we need to know their ties and why they're here, and if they really do love America, and if they are a threat to our leader.